Hello and welcome to the Crimson Stitchery. Happy New Year! How are you doing? So I was thinking about doing a recap video about all of the knitting that I have done in the last year, but it did occur to me that that might slightly punish some of my viewers who have followed me along since the beginning and who already know everything that I have knitted throughout 2019. Instead, when I was tidying up my sweater drawer in my bedroom, I have a very small closet wardrobe space for clothing, and I was actually struggling to shut the sweater drawer. It occurred to me to take out all of my sweaters that I'd made over the last year and count them, and I was absolutely amazed to discover that I had managed to complete 6 sweater projects in 2019. And here they all are, inside this shopping bag, which is covered in pictures of biscuits. Lovely. So just in case you were wondering why I'm doing a video about knitting whilst not wearing ostensibly very much knitwear, I wondered that myself, and then I went and put on a pair of fingerless gloves. Even though I'm inside, they're knit from Shetland wool in stranded colourwork, and therefore my hands are really hot now. But actually, where's all the knitwear? The sweaters are in the bag that's covered with biscuits. And it's really heavy. So I went on to Knitty Instagram over the last couple of days, which I have not been very engaged with. And as viewers know, I've got a bit of a love-hate relationship with Instagram and social media in general. But one of the amazing things that Instagram does is that it can connect you to lots of different initiatives, knit-alongs, and just other stuff generally going on in your hobby of preference very, very easily. And it's also an amazing way to discover new things. And I found out that there are 2 very exciting knit-alongs or make-alongs that are occurring in the new year, now 2020. The first one is called Get Scrappy 2020, hosted by Exterminate over on Instagram. And the idea is that you knit a minimum of 4 different scrap socks, and there are different themes that change every quarter. And I already knit a lot of scrap socks to the point where I've actually done quite well at working through my scraps. So I thought this was really fun because it was connecting lots of different people and making scrap socks, coming up with different ideas, how to combine leftover yarns, and also encouraging people who might not normally tend to do that to kind of integrate it into their normal knitting practice. I'm just gonna have to take off these gloves now. It's too hot. So that was really exciting. And another thing that I found was called hashtag Free Socks 2020, hosted by Kia Sport, who has a podcast here on YouTube as well. And Free Socks 2020 is about knitting free sock patterns that you can download without any cost on Ravelry using yarns that you already have in your stash, so it's kind of free to you. And I think that this is a fun initiative. Certainly when I first started getting into sock patterns, I relied quite heavily on free patterns. So I think this is, again, a fun challenge in order to motivate people just to knit more socks. Now, personally, I don't have as much sock yarn stash as Kia does in her beautiful photo promoting the cowl, but it kind of got me thinking. So let's delve into the veritable elephant in the room. Here are my sweaters that I have knitted over 2019. Starting off with my gorgeous magenta number that I seamed in 2019 and maybe like knit a sleeve or something, but I did most of the knitting in 2018. Through to this lovely turquoise number that I did a lot of knitting of in conferences, the burgundy sweater that was part of the vintage Shetland spring cowl, which I'm probably going to try and wrap up soon. After that, we've got this whole super soft magnolia number that I made all the videos about. Then it got over to the summer and I cast on my scrap jumper, interrupted it with this beautiful Wool and the Gang pile of fluff. Like, you can kind of, hopefully you can sense how fluffy that is, because that is mad how fluffy that is. And then finished off the scrap jumper at the end of December over Christmas. 6 jumpers. And just put them on my lap now. And then as I was going through my jumper drawer, I discovered one jumper that I knitted at the end of 2018 that I want to frog because it was a complete failure. And then I started thinking about my stash. So I spoke a little bit about stash on my last video here up on the Crimson Stitchery. And basically it boils down to the fact that I don't have very much storage space, I don't have very much disposable income, and I don't really enjoy buying yarn. I don't really enjoy it. So I started investigating and suddenly I realised that I had enough knitting slash yarn to complete 6 sweater projects, another 6 sweater projects. So I've done 6 here, completed, like bound off, ends woven in, completely done across 2019, and I could do the same in 2020. So I've got 6 things, including 4 languishing whips from the whip along, more on that in a minute. Plus I've got like this jumper that I need to unravel. I've got some virgin untouched yarns that I could knit into a sweater. I've got another scrap project that I'm really dying to get started on, beautiful crochet jumper that I've seen online. And yeah, I was kind of shocked because I didn't realise that I had that much. Like, it was kind of bubbling away in the back of my mind. But I think being confronted with all of these 2019 sweaters, like 6 sweaters here, and I could knit another 6 sweaters very easily out of stuff that I already have in my very small flat, in my very small storage. It just kind of goes to show how easy it is to forget about things, and also how easy it is to accumulate objects and finished objects too. So I am wondering, can I go stashless in 2020? Going stashless is something that is not a new concept to me. It's actually been something that I've been fighting to achieve for a number of years. It probably began circa 2012 when I started working on this crochet hexagons scrap blanket using leftovers. However, I would say that that was a complete failure because I basically didn't have enough yarn to make the large size blanket that I wanted, and I ended up buying a lot of yarn for it. So it sort of started off as a scrap project but ended up as, I would say, just a travelling project because I would just make all of these hexagons wherever I was. And you know, I was doing a lot of travelling for work, so I would buy balls of yarn, just 1 or 2 balls here and there, and make them up straight away. So it's like a travelling project or a compendium, but not really a stash busting project. So I've made other blankets too that I've given away to people. I've made cushions. I have found that crochet is really conducive to scraps. I've made scrap socks. I've made things to give away. I've set a really limited budget for myself. I've gone to yarn shops and yarn events and come away empty-handed multiple times. And yet, despite trying so hard, I've still got much more in my stash than I need. And to be honest with you, by the time I knit another 6 jumpers, hopefully I'll be successful, my wardrobe is going to be bursting, like even fuller than it already is. So I'll be creating more things that possibly I don't really need. And yet I've spent the money, I've committed to the materials I feel mentally, and I would just be so thrilled if I finally just knit them up and got them out of their kind of purgatory state, if you will. So that is my question to myself. Can I go stashless in 2020? I don't know. What do you think? Have you ever tried to do a stash busting initiative, and how's it gone for you? Do you have any tips or advice? I would really love to know. That's it from me today, just a very short one this week, and I will be back with a longer podcast, fingers crossed, next week if everything goes well. And also I am thinking about changing my podcast day to Wednesdays instead of Tuesdays due to some work commitments, so I hope that that is okay with you guys. And do subscribe if you haven't done so already, and click on the bell if you want to receive a notification about new video uploads. Just one last quick reminder, the Crimson Whip Along ends today. I'm going to close the chatter thread on Ravelry at the end of the day on the 2nd of January Greenwich Mean Time, so at the end of the day. So if you're in the US, it might be a little bit earlier for you, so hopefully you'll have realised. And if you haven't done already, if you have successfully achieved more than 50% of your whips, cleared off your list that includes frogging, do post in the Whip Along winners thread to be entered into the prize draw with a much higher chance of winning than if you only participated in the chatter thread. But there are still lots and lots of amazing prizes for both threads, the chatter and the participation, and the winners specifically. So do go back and double check, and if you're eligible to post in the winners thread, please don't forget to do that. The Crimson Stitchery is a video channel about making all things that are beautiful and useful. It is about living in a way that compromises neither on aesthetics or ethics. It's about living sustainably in a way that's good for the planet and in a way that is good for us. So I hope that you've enjoyed this video. Give me a thumbs up if you did, and I'll speak to you very soon. Take care, bye bye.